And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. I'm Pete Belcastro. This is Alice Lema. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon. We get together with you once a week here on the radio and on YouTube to talk about our favorite subject, which is real estate.
Southern Oregon real estate.
Jackson, Josephine, Klamath counties all around the world. There's a lot of activity going on. And, of course, we're glad you've joined us as we always give you some good information to make you, of course, a good, smart real estate consumer. How's your week going? What'd you do?
It's going great. We actually have a few people that are going to list now instead of in the spring, which is great because we have so many buyers out there. So that's good. We need a little bit more inventory.
I've got lots of buyers, people interested, moving everything from into the valley, but mostly it's people moving up and down, trying to find different places within the counties that they want.
Well, if you're downsizing, it's a little bit harder because there's not as much inventory. But if you're buying something bigger, boy, have you got a nice selection.
Well, we told you that inventory was going down a little bit. It's down 11% from a year ago in Jackson County. Okay, so we're into that same, and about 5% down in Josephine County. So inventory.
That's still not that much,
down, though. Let's see. Is it over 1,000? It's still over 1,100 available inventory.
Yeah.
It didn't hit 1,000 until about, I don't know, a year and a half ago. It was below that. So we've seen that really come back and change. So a lot of activity out there, and we're happy to help you out if you need some questions answered. Frank Mania is here. Frank is the marketing manager from Ticor Title. He's been with us many times over the last 10 years.
Hi, Peter.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, thanks.
You keep all this information in your head. I know. We talk about, we have pages of stats. We could talk about stats, for hours. We talked about commercial activity, and I think, well, Frank's got it all in his head. So tell us just overall, what's been happening?
Well, Peter, there's a really low inventory of quality products right now in general in both sale and leasing buildings right now.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, a lot of people are holding on to their properties right now, and we've got tenants that are staying with, in their locations.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah. I know the company I'm with, the title company, that the building that we're in, we've been in there for almost 18 years now. It's just moving is just not an option for us right now.
Well, but you don't have to move.
We
right?
don't have to. Well, our lease comes up,
I see.
and we stay where we're at.
And you need more space, kind of things like that for business, I guess, as they grow, right?
Well, that's kind of an interesting point because, and we were talking a little bit before, technology is changing businesses, and we can actually do the same thing we were doing 10 years ago with actually less people.
Yeah.
Because of technology.
Well, look at all the banks that are empty. How many empty buildings that, we're seeing consolidations.
Well, there's a lot of space, yeah.
Is there a shortage of this, though? It doesn't seem like there is, but you're saying that it's pretty tough to find.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing out there. That's what the commercial guys are telling me. There's a shortage of quality space. There's space out there. A case in point would be like the building, the old Bank of America building on the corner of Stevens and Crater Lake. There's space out there, and there's buildings out there, but having to retrofit them and bring them up to code. That particular building is in need. I understand it's in need of some repair, but there's a second floor in that building, and there's no elevator.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's time for some of the landlords or the owners of these buildings to step up and start doing something if they want these things rented.
Well, and the cost to do that is often prohibitive, and we saw that with Jackson County when they bought the old post office downtown. If you remember, that stuff.
Okay, I do remember that.
Trying to run internet cable and through solid concrete walls just wasn't going to work. So we ended up knocking down the building and building a whole new building.
Yeah.
So
office supply too. I mean,
we're in short supply.
There's retail, right? There's retail, and then there's office supply kind of spaces, right?
Right. Little short on both sides. There's some retail out there. There's down by the Chick-fil-A. There's some space down there. But office supply, I was talking to a group out in Navigators Landing. They're desperately looking for some office space either in that area, out in the Central Point area.
How are things going with the Rogue Valley Mall? That space in there.
Interesting question.
That's a good question.
It's a good question. We're seeing some more vacancies in there, and I'm not quite sure what's going on with the mall or malls in general. Malls in general, because I think the behavior patterns of people shopping is changing dramatically.
Well, wasn't there at one point some ideas about converting that into more kind of space for insurance companies or banks or something like that, where the public was used to just walking in, and doctors' offices, things like that?
There's been some discussion about that, and I heard something about Kohl's maybe even putting in some sort of like a fitness center.
Oh,
Okay.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, to kind of bring people into the mall.
No, they're not dead yet, certainly, that's for sure. And we talked about, remember, people said retail's dead. Everybody's going to go online. They're going to deliver it by drone, et cetera. You don't need stores anymore. But you're saying, look what's needed here.
Yeah.
We got shortages.
Right.
I don't know what that means.
Well, we're growing. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, we've got a lot of things going on in the valley right now. You know, we have a lot of master plan projects going on. The COGAP project is one of them. You know, the first building that we saw on that project was the Providence building, the urgent care center.
Has that worked out for them, by the way?
Yes, it has.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and there's more medical buildings coming up. You know, we're seeing Asante redo their parking lot. That's going to a parking garage. They're going to be putting another building there. And talking with Mr. Roy Vineyard the other day. They're working on their cancer center.
That's expanding all that.
Oncology center that's going to go up. And you know, interestingly enough, Pete, you know, we've got a lot of interest from hotel groups.
Yes.
Looking in
I haven't
this
seen
area.
anybody start anything for a while, but we've talked about several projects coming up, right?
Well, you know, on the hotel side, I mean, you know, we've seen, of course, the Hilton Gardens come up within the last year.
Okay.
Holiday Inn just opened their new building. The group Clarion came in.
Right.
They bought the old Holiday Inn Express.
They're like banks and airlines. They just keep changing names and numbers. You know, the same buildings but different
names,
things, you know,
right?
Yeah.
Well, there's another group called My Place.
Okay.
They're looking at a site, and there's a sign up across from the airport.
All right.
Okay, so
There's a sign up at Hampton Court by Home Depot in Phoenix. I know. I've seen that one.
Yep, saw that. And this other group, they're looking at another site down in the Phoenix
So where do
area.
they think all the travelers are coming from?
All over, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a good point, because I've asked that question too. Why all the hotel groups? Well, let's kind of look at what's happened down at the U.S. Cellular Park, the soccer group.
That's what Pete keeps saying.
You know, and we've got we got groups looking at the city of Medford, the aquatic center.
Well, I would say one thing. I am proud of the city of Medford, and sometimes I never say that to them. But the Medford Aquatic Center, I think, would be one of the best things this community could really ever do. And I hope that it does happen. And the fact that they're not asking the property owners to pay for it. I know they're having the fee increase, but it's coming from the motel tax. Look, every time I travel anywhere, I pay a huge motel tax for everything under the world. And I think that's fine. I think it would be a huge economic stimulus.
Yeah, and of course, you know, with the expansion, like you were talking about, of the medical field, the medical buildings, the Asante expansion, the cancer center, you know, kind of been through an issue in my family. You know, where had a family member up in the Portland area at OHSU. Where do you stay? You know, when you've got people coming to specialized centers for treatment,
and they're there sometimes for a while.
Yeah, exactly right.
And you would think with all the the short-term rentals out there, the vacation rentals at hotels would be dwindling, but that's really not the case. Even though both of them
they're
seem
both
to be
expanding,
flourishing.
They're expanding.
They're busy.
Yeah, there's a pretty good demand for multifamily apartments, mini storage, retail centers, single tenant lease properties. You know, they're good investments.
Well, it's happening. One of the best things of Medford, I think, is Medford loves chain restaurants. Let's face that. And the new IHOP opened, right?
The new IHOP
Southwest Medford.
Have you tried to get in there?
No.
Well, you have to wait about a month before you try anything new in
Medford.
Medford.
Like the Cracker Barrel when it opened. And now, wait till the Chick-fil-A opens. You think In-N-Out Burger was busy. It's amazing how those flourish here.
I know.
Isn't it?
I know.
It must be really good investments. We should be.
Well, and I think it's consistency. It's people travel all over, different parts of the United States, and they have access to these places. And then to have one, like, remember when Trader Joe's? It's still a big deal to have Trader Joe's here.
Yeah. Well, and that's another one. And talking to one of the commercial brokers the other day when we were talking about hotels, and we talk about the shopping here, and there's no sales tax. I mean, we got people that, we're almost the first town coming over the border from California, or the last stop going into California. Okay, so you need a place to stay, and they're shopping. So that's a big that's a big draw for these hotels.
It is. When California raised the gas tax, remember, by 20-some cents a few months ago, the gas guys at the Circle K's south of Medford were all saying that Californians were either empty when they got there coming north and they're filling up, or they're filling up before they're heading into California. They were so busy they were so busy about 3 weeks there. It was really funny to see that happen. Anyway, lots of crazy, lots of this is happening out there.
Yeah.
And doesn't commercial activity drive the housing activity
well,
market
I think
too, Alice?
they're loosely connected. I'd love to hear your perspective on that, but I think they're on their own tracks,
You think so?
but they influence each other.
Oh, you're absolutely right. They do influence each other, and we're struggling, as you know, we're struggling a little bit in the housing market with the supply of affordable housing for our local demographic.
Sure.
We're starting to see some projects come out of the ground on the south side of town. I saw another one yesterday on Ron Ross Lane, and all 3 of these projects are going to offer product under $300,000. So
new single family homes under 300.
Yeah, new single family construction.
I'm not opposed to those. We need other things besides 3
there's
and 2, right?
I'm starting to see some of these larger lots be the mini developments that we talked about with the new state laws, where you can have four dwellings on a
single family lot.
Thank you. I still can't believe it passed.
Has anybody applied for that yet? We have the Medford planning director in here. Nobody's applied for that yet.
Well, it's starting to get
it's
starting to get some chatter, and the people who've got some relationships with the construction arms of banks are getting ready to start doing those. There's some starting to show up, some surveys starting to happen.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the city's crafted their ordinance.
No,
they
haven't adopted it yet, but people are getting ready.
They're getting ready because, and I've talked to builders and developers that have seen this in other parts of the state. They said it actually works well. I mean, it's
well, and you can put a manufactured home on those. It doesn't have to be stick built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't wait till someone starts applying and starts doing this. Where the Valley needs it, and I can't wait for that to happen. Our developers are going to do that. And Frank, next segment, we've got a break coming up here, but Frank's got a new development he's going to share with us that's coming up in line in a little bit as well. So there's, something's going on when the Medford Planning Commission has like 6 items in front of it.
That's a lot for our community.
And so that means developers are coming in and doing things. And even though it's fall, there's a lot of activity. I think we're going to have an interesting winter going on around us.
I totally agree.
Really
and what I keep hearing out in the field too is interest rates are going to continue to come down.
Yeah.
We have
that's shocking.
We have an election coming up here.
Election,
They're not going to go up. I guarantee you that.
No. And our president's campaign platform is a robust economy.
Yeah.
So where do you think that's going to send interest rates?
And it makes it so much more affordable for people to buy. That is the biggest thing. You can do so much because of low interest rates. We got a break coming up here. Pete and Alice here today on the Real Estate Show with Frank Mania from Ticor Title. Got lots more to go. Coming up next, Dave Tribbet's going to be here. We're going to talk about an interesting education and innovation center that he wants to bring here to the Valley. We'll talk about that as well. Got a few more stats to share with you. There's a lot of kind of good news out there. I'm usually not the one who brings good news. Anyway, but I think that's really good for our economy and good for all of us as well. We're coming right back. The Real Estate Show continues here right after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. Pete Belcastro and Alice Lema here with you today in the house, and thanks for joining us. It's October the 12th, the middle of October. Fall is here, and I'm excited about kind of the future for us.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting transition from summer to fall. It normally gets quite a bit slower, and we're not seeing that slow down to the degree we normally do. So it's going to be an interesting winter. We're thinking we're going to have a lot more sales happen than we normally do.
We just talked about interest rates in the last segment there, 3.6 to 4 right now, 30-year.
Isn't that something?
3.1 to higher than that for a 15-year. So, they're definitely there. One of the questions I have, how much do you think people pay for a down payment?
On average?
On average. What do you think that actually is?
I would guess probably in the 5 to 7% down.
32% of all sales in the country are 5% or less
for
a down payment.
Look at that.
Right on. 10% buy them outright. Okay.
Wow.
10% buy them. 16% pay between 6 and 10%. 23% pay between 11 and 20%. Now, I put 20% down on mine. So I didn't want to have mortgage insurance and pay the prepaid for the mortgage insurance also. So people do that. So those are the top two things. Isn't that interesting? Less at 5% or less, or 20%.
So it'd also be interesting to know how many of those were 1031 investment exchanges, because a lot of 1031 investment people will pay cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Be curious
I don't
to
know.
know what that
Don't know
is.
that one.
Well, we'll have Frank look that up.
Well, yeah, Frank, put
Our
that in
commercial
his,
guy.
Put that in his head. Just put that out there. Will you do that, Ed?
Next session.
So Frank brought along our next guest, who is Dave Tribbet, and Dave is from V3 Consulting in Medford, right? Hear me. You got to get that closer to you, Dave. I know that right now. So you want to bring, and you brought along here, and we can give you an email address or something. You can check this out, about an innovation and education center that you're thinking that you want to try to get here to the Rogue Valley and stuff like that. We talk about education all the time. People, our populations, all that kind of thing. So quickly, just kind of briefly, because we don't have a lot of time, what are you talking about with this thing?
Well, some of the things we're looking at taking on with building out an innovation center is having it be an integral component of identity in our communities, education, and opportunity. And so I was actually really surprised when I started to do a lot of the research, because if you look at technology being the future, you see that we actually are almost in parity with Russia in STEM grads. India's fivefold.
But you're
what we
talking
are.
about-
Are you saying we're that far behind? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
But you're talking about bringing. Are you talking about helping people locally with more technology education or something like that? Or but you're talking about the private sector here, not like a school district or college like OIT or SOU, right? You mean?
No, adding value possibly as far as capacity goes, but not competing with those entities.
How are you not doing that? How are you not doing that? I mean, tell me how you got to.
Yeah.
How does that mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I can hear them say,
Yeah.
"Well, you're going to come in here and we're going to compete with a."
Yeah.
Rogue Community College has the state of Oregon just passed technology and stuff. The legislature for students. So I'm just trying to think how you're doing this.
Ideally, what we'd be looking at is actually utilizing existing educators and adding new high-tech facilities and capacity to what they're able to do in that space.
Okay.
So we're not looking to bring on our own educators. We're adding value and capacity overall to what's
that's
able
awesome.
to be done.
Yeah, and we need higher awareness for sure in our valley. Sorry, keep going.
Absolutely. So it is a very large project. To be honest with you, when I was doing all the research, I wasn't really sure what we were looking for as a catalyst of positive change that will feed into real estate and all kinds of different things you'll see. That's what we're really looking for.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This is one of my favorite topics.
Okay.
I just love.
I'm
convinced that real estate is going to be completely changed when we have autonomous cars being way more adopted here, and also our elder care. So what are your thoughts on that for our local?
Yeah. So there's
innovation.
an interesting thing. I don't know if you guys know the developer in Ashland, Laz
Vialo, yeah.
Yes.
And he's building
the,
some very special things around that space. I was at a presentation, was absolutely amazing, that was hosted by Jim Teese, E2E, and those things will definitely expand and grow.
If you walk into Phillips Corner or go around Phillips Corner, which is where that new development by the football field at Ashland down on Main Street there, walking around there, I was telling with people, and we're thinking this is the future of new development, high-density housing. In Ashland, it only goes up like 2 stories maybe, but other places you see they go up many, many more stories. But that is really what the future, I thought, looked like walking around seeing that.
Well, it's definitely for the more high density. But the thing about robotics and having help, whether you need it physically or in your business, is really going to be a game changer. And I think a lot of people are worried about job loss. But I'm looking at some of the stats, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, because I don't think that's necessarily the case.
It is in some respects, but what I'm finding now is that even though they don't know exactly what a lot of the new jobs will be, that there will be a lot of new jobs that don't exist right now. Some of the fastest growing spaces is AI, neural networks, deep learning based technologies, and those pay extremely well. And right now, that's very in demand as far as that goes.
You trying to bring that type of work here? or created here?
I hope so.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
some of the capacity.
but
Yeah.
as Alice says, and I'll be the devil for a moment, is that do we want that type of environment to come here, the Silicon Valley?
Yes, we do.
You
It's
do.
clean.
See,
It's clean.
Frank, what do
The
you
jobs
think?
are good paying.
Okay,
They're
Frank, what do you think? Frank,
purposeful.
I'm going to relate this to the retail sector. I mean,
Okay.
and a lot of people thought that, when Costco first opened here, one of the comments I heard was they'll never make it here in Medford. And they turned out to be one of the largest stores in the Pacific Northwest. But we are not only a regional shopping area, but I think where Dave's going with this is also going to bring in some regional interest for training and technology. And, whether it's going to stay here, whether we'll have the businesses here, I think it'll be a draw for this valley. It'll bring people here just like the shopping sector does.
Okay.
It brings people here, they do what they need to do, and they go on elsewhere.
But it'll also be an elevation, and it's not necessarily that you have to have a college degree for some of these. Like, I think Google just announced some kind of a certificate recently, and they will help you train so that people can start being more tuned in and ready for some of these technological changes.
Well, and I think companies, and I think you're absolutely right, like Google, I mean, they're bringing people on and they're training. We have to start training because the technology is changing jobs and job descriptions so rapidly that we can't keep up, I mean, with staffing.
And the issue also is actually we're represented by 23 of the top 25 technologies globally to some degree, and you see even with the Innovation Center, we plan to be electric vehicles and foot traffic and so on and so forth as far as that goes. And we have all the stuff that Cummings is doing. And so we have a lot of the pieces. And to be honest with you, another thing that I hear is a lot of the amazing grads from the local schools are having to leave our area that they love.
Oh, sure.
And so that capacity, ideally on the tech, it isn't just about education. We plan to actually have companies on the campus that they'll actually graduate, go directly into a job. And then once they're not so green, they've had some knowledge that we'll have everything on the campus also for startups and incubator.
Yep, that I was just saying this is going to be so important.
Micro-lending,
Yep.
So this is big.
Our economy, our base economy here locally in Southern Oregon could actually rise quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think
that is so exciting.
Years ago, the Sony Corporation was trying to open an operation here and was unsuccessful. But when they went to the Springfield area and opened their plant up there, it was 30 Fortune 500 companies opened around the Sony Corporation. So, I mean, this could dramatically change our environment.
It really could. And then the young people would have jobs. They would have education. They're attracted to that new frontier for technology anyway. Yeah. So, and they would stay here.
Yeah, and
it's clean.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we certainly do. If I sit on scholarship readings, if you've ever done that, you know that the best and brightest of our community exports we leave every year. And that's true. That's very, very true. And you see where they're going to school, and you kind of say, "Geez,
Well, and they don't always
come
come back.
Yeah, maybe they
don't
come back
always.
40 years later, but they leave us. The best and brightest have been doing that for decades, and that's not unusual there. So it sounds like it's a third leg of a stool. You talked about the shopping. Frank talks about the shopping center, how that draws so many people in.
Right.
Yeah, as you said about the medical, how that is such a draw of people here.
From hundreds of miles.
This could be maybe four legs of the stool. We have our agriculture industry. Hemp certainly is now, and this is kind of a third one of a technology center area that could be the fourth part of that. That's kind of makes sense when you start looking at it from that maybe perspective.
So with all of the assisted living facilities, I would imagine they would be all over your innovation center.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've been doing a lot of meetings with a lot of different companies, and they all see a piece there for them.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who else do you think?
Well, I didn't know that this level of innovation education was going to even be possible in Southern Oregon. So I'm a little bit speechless, but it's so exciting. Yeah. It really, really is.
I know you have what's your timeline, Dave, first of all here?
Yeah, the goal is 5 years, and where that actually comes from as a lead time when you start seeing a lot of the disruption from automation and AI gives us a 5-year window on what's actually happening in that space. The goal is 5 years. Yeah.
And how do you get the money to pay for this thing? How are you going to do that? Because it's everybody wants money, so how are you going to do that?
Well, it's kind of interesting because this is a very large project as far as that goes. But there's a lot of investors and there's a lot of money flowing through the markets through simply through quantitative easing. You know, that added almost $16 trillion to the U.S. Through quantitative easing. So
quantitative easing, isn't that?
Is that all?
I want you to explain what quantitative easing is. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's when the Fed was writing multi-billion-dollar checks to the largest U.S. banks to buy up and stabilize aspects of the market from the last collapse.
Okay.
Yeah.
See? All right.
And we had more than one.
And it was a big collapse.
Yeah.
All right. Continue on. I'm sorry.
So there's a lot of money in our area, actually, and in a lot of other places. And they're really, even from a federal level, they're looking for amazing projects that'll really be game changers for our country. And then we started to look at things first nationally, regionally, and so on and so forth. And we started doing a lot of meetings with a lot of organizations. And like I said, this is meant to be a positive catalyst to bring in much needed cash flow, stabilize many areas of what is going on here in our communities, and hold on to some of that talent and bring in new talent. Because for every one job, I found this very interesting, that is in Silicon Valley, an employer can save almost $100,000 per employee actually moving in our area
by not being
and
there.
And so the build to suit for our area is 1/3 to 1/4 of what they're actually able to do, saving almost $100,000 per employee, and those people are still very near in six-figure. And we could really use that for
Boy, we sure
our
could.
community,
That would
so.
be awesome.
And they can't expand where they are, really, can they? They have to go somewhere else, don't
Unless
they?
they're building
Unless
vertically.
you're going to
Go
go
up.
up. Because,
And that's what
they-
aren't they starting to do
but
that in
even
Silicon
so-
Valley? The
Yeah.
companies are providing their own housing.
Yeah.
Well, it's housing and buildings and
Straight.
transportation and everything else.
Yeah,
What a
all
great, What a
incorporated.
great way to live. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. Anyway, okay. Well, Dave, we've got a break coming up here. We'll stay with us. We got one more segment to go. Pete and Alice here on the Real Estate Show today. We're coming right back. Don't forget you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com, and we're right back after this. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. Wow, today we learned a lot. Pete Belcastro and Alice Lema here with you today. Frank Mania from Ticor Title, he's a marketing manager down there. And Dave Tribbet from V3 Consulting has been talking to us about an innovation and education center he wants to bring here to the Rogue Valley as well. Well, we get segment time out of here. I want to give you a rent thing before. One more last kind of tidbit of information on the real estate market. Rents. Did you see what rents this week?
Yes.
Jackson County, true is true. Average rent in Jackson County passed $1,555 a month.
And that's higher than the national average.
It's higher than the national average, which was $1,483.
And that's in a rent control state. First state in the union to have rent control, and our rents are higher than anywhere else in the national.
And rents are going up.
Yeah.
I have many renters who are saying my landlords are raising them because
We have a lot
of that
of
law.
They're selling too.
But right now,
They're just selling.
in Medford, our average rent is higher than the national average. First time I've ever seen that. That's
$1,500 a month is
it's
a lot.
It's a house payment.
Yeah, compared to what the locals earn here. It's all
Yeah.
proportion. I know if you're listening in Santa Clara, you're falling out of your chair that it's only $1,500.
It's all how you view it, isn't it? That's
yeah,
really
but proportion,
true.
that's a huge.
Well, before we run out of time, Dave, we want to give you a chance here. I mean, I wish you well with that. I hope that the local groups that you're dealing with, I assume you're so ready, and I can think of, Frank, tons of other groups that the commissioners, I mean, the economic development.
I would think the construction industry would be all over this as
construction
well,
industry.
3D printing and.
Yeah. So you're kind of dealing with kind of all that, man, right? Then
Yeah, it's very exciting, actually. So
Uh-huh.
pulling in a lot of the connections that we had to build something amazing for the community.
Do you have a website or anything that you can people can go to, or how can they get a hold of you if they want some more information from you?
It's still a little hush-hush, but people can always actually reach out to us through our website is v3tribe.com.
V3 Tribe.
Tribe, T-R-I-B-E.
Okay,
Little
V3
play on my
Tribe.
last name, yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
V3tribe.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Good luck with that. That's a very ambitious, I guess, the concept is
It's going to have a lot of.
It's going to be great.
I am
yeah.
so
lot of
glad
moving
somebody's
parts.
doing this, but it's going to have a really positive effect on many, many levels in our community.
And it's interesting. There's only about 3 spaces that will actually fit what it is that we're trying to build, because it's going to be 40 to 60 acres. So,
and you're
that's
still looking for
great.
land and all this kind of thing, ready to try to do this as well.
yeah, we have our eye on some different.
You got
pieces
some
of
eye on some land?
property,
Okay, well, that's good land. Well, speaking of land, I just wanted to share with you in the latest rolling quarter, okay, the SOMLS stats, these would be July, August, and September. Alice, Frank, I'll even ask you this. We always look at that, the median price. What did it do from a year ago, up or down, kind of? What are we expecting? Because your property tax statements are going to be coming out in a few weeks.
In your mailbox.
It's one of our favorite times of the
if you
year,
have a mailbox.
especially when you have to write the check for them. So equity, we had double-digit increases, for a while, which are not sustainable and not good. What do you think it was this last time? Just out of...
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think prices have kind of stabilized and even dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of price reductions. I'm hearing that out there right now in the market. Again, we're trying to reach this affordability factor for the local demographic. And that's kind of been an issue in the valley.
5.2% was
That's good.
the median increase from a year ago in Jackson County,
nice.
and 7.7% in Josephine County.
Well, and a lot of people are going over to Josephine County when they can't find what they want for the right price here, so that's bleed over.
And they continue to go even from there into Klamath. So we really have this market that is and again, it's different by each community, and so it's not all uniform. We just give you the averages here, but it's different. In Ashland would be different than, say, Roe River, something like that. So anyway, that's kind of that information. New construction, new construction. We talk about that. 95 new units in Jackson County in the 3-month period, 15 in Josephine County. Is there any wonder why there's a housing shortage in Josephine County? There's literally no new construction going on.
Yeah, that's not
there.
very much.
Now, before you go, you had a new development that you wanted to share with us that was going to happen in West Medford, right?
In West Medford, yeah. Many years ago, I got into a discussion with a landowner that owned some acreage off of Oak Grove, and at the time, his property hadn't been identified in Medford's regional problem-solving program.
The RPS,
the RPS for expansion of their boundaries.
Right.
And there's been a lot of those parcels off of Oak Grove, east of Oak Grove, that have now been identified. And there's a series of parcel owners out there that are working with some planners on a 97-acre development project out there. That's going to include, and the objective is to build a lot of affordable housing and affordable multifamily rental properties out there.
Okay.
So it's going to be many phases, at least 5 phases. Again, a build out like 5 to 6 years. And they're talking some retail, and they're talking recreational center with pool and
That'll be nice.
Basketball courts and
that would be in the city limits.
It'll be in the city
within
limits,
the city
right?
limits
The
of
next
Medford.
one, in addition to what they're planning now, they've got to go through the annexation process into the city.
Okay.
And I understand all that's in the works, but it's going to be a fairly good-sized project, and it's kind of long overdue for something to happen like that on the west side of town.
Yeah,
so
and how many acres is that?
97 acres.
That's a good size.
And that's a good number of units. And I hope it's mixed. You're talking about mixed types of housing?
400 single-family homes, 160 apartments, and 3 acres of commercial property over the span of 5 years.
Okay.
They're going to include some greenways, water features, art pieces throughout, and creating an inviting environment.
I'd love to see some tiny homes in there, 4 or 5 to a lot, things like that.
How tiny, Pete?
Well, no, beautiful tiny
No,
homes. I'm
kidding.
talking people that we need. Not all of us want 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. That's probably my big thing. I mean, we talk about that. We keep building the same stuff mostly.
Right. And
this changes a little bit there.
Yeah, and I keep hearing too, and correct me, and I was corrected not too long ago about downsizing. Not downsizing, it's right
sizing.
Right sizing. is
Right
where we're going.
sizing.
And there's a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah. Well, there is, and there should be.
There should be,
I mean,
exactly.
The problem is that there's not. Where do you go to find the right size?
Right.
Because the right size is simply not out there. If you're retiring from a large house, where are you going to go, Alice?
Well, a lot of those retirees have trouble right sizing the first time. So it'd be nice if we had choices, because you almost need to do it in 2 steps, I'm thinking, is you're going to downsize and then have 10 or 20 years where you're going to be okay. And then you're going to need something more like in the 800 to 1,000 square feet, maybe even smaller, maybe 400
400 or
square
500
feet.
square foot tiny homes that are beautiful homes built.
And those will be on foundation. They're not
That's what we're talking about, the
pull by
neighborhoods
your car thing.
all these planners come in here and they tell us all these things, you know, they're going to do this and this and this, and we're trying to get these smaller homes for people that don't need 3 and 2s, and so we haven't built any here yet. One of those, some developers.
But then there's a question
do
of,
that.
yeah, how many do we really need, though?
I know.
And for how
supply
long?
And demand. I know.
How many generations?
It's like Alice to be the first one to buy a self-driving car in Jackson County.
I
she can't
hope.
wait to get
I
that.
can't wait.
See, she would be like you, Dave.
What a waste of time.
Great, I think.
Nobody should be driving a car.
See?
Nobody should be driving a car unless you're, you know, doing it for fun on a racetrack.
and that's what makes such interesting discussions, because you can go in either direction.
And robotics for elder care. It's like no elder should be home alone.
That's true too. I'm not against all that. It's so interesting in how we're changing our life. So really, Dave, wish you well there when you're in your projects. Okay, and come back again maybe sometime.
We're going to
give
help.
us an update. V3tribe.com is the website. You can get more information there. Frank Mania, always nice to visit with you.
Thank you, Pete.
I'm going to be first in line for the Chick-fil-A. You're going to be right after me, right?
Right behind you.
We're going to line up 3 days before and camp there, because that's what it's going to take to get there.
I'm going to be first in line at the Innovation Center.
You're at the Innovation Center in line for her car.
There you go.
Nance, thank you for your video
Thank you, Brett.
today here as usual on our show. Thanks for joining us here on KCMX. For Alice Lema, I'm Pete Belcastro. Again, thanks for joining us here on our show. We're back with you next week as well. Have a great week, everybody, and God bless you all.